I'm Junell Pasquarelli, formerly Junell Gray. I grew up in town of Glen. Recently moved back. Didn't move too far away, but I was town of Florida resident before that, and then town of Broadalton. Just purchased a 56-acre farm over on Lane Drive this year. So, but this is where I grew up, where I went to school. As far as real estate goes, on a professional level, we see things locally change in value a little more dramatically here than we do what they consider nationwide average. I've seen the effects, especially in town of Florida, with some of the solar panels that have gone up over there when we put things up for sale. Usually we tend to see maybe 1 out of 30 people are willing to buy that house. Not everybody gets 30 people to come in and buy their house, especially out here. There was a couple on Pattersonville Road and a few of the other roads that were up there. That was before the farms even went in, but people knew they were coming in. Usually when we have a house that is involving, or a property that's involving solar near it, not uncommon that I will look at it and say there's probably at least a $25,000 hit in value, if not closer to $50,000. National average says 1.5%. So you have a $250,000 house, national average is trying to say it would be basically $3,700 in difference in value. That is not at all what I've seen from my experience. It is definitely more closer to 25 to 50,000, and you're hoping to find that one person that doesn't care about the panels. A lot of people do care, and the more that we're seeing them coming in, the more people are caring, because there are bigger problems that are coming with it. Out here, how many of you guys have a well, drilled or dug? How many people have a well? So just think about it. Your well is supplied by a water vein. When these companies are coming in and they're pounding, they're going to affect somebody's water vein. If you have a house that's going to be affected, or you have a property that's going to be affected, you don't have water, your house didn't just change by 25 or 50,000, it just went to zero. Because I don't know of anyone sitting here who's going to want to buy a property that has no water. Like I said, separate from the amount of people that are even looking at it. You've also got people that just don't want to live near them. They haven't been cared for in some of the local towns. They say that they're going to maintain them. There's a lot of brush up around them. They tend to be more of an eyesore than anything. So you've got that. You've got the health concerns that are starting to come down the way. California starting to see things, they've had the panels in a lot longer than some of the other states have. Whether it's lead that's coming off the panels, seeping into the ground, look at what it does. Look at what happens with lead in your water. So there's a lot that you guys need to think about, and if we have any control to stop it, we need to certainly voice our opinions, because it's going to dramatically change value here. There has been people that have approached me even before this, knowing, 3-4 years ago when the talk was started about solar panels, they already wanted to sell. They wanted to get out. They didn't want to have to deal with them. There's other people right now, they want to sell. They're feeling stuck. They're feeling like it's too late. We're still not going to get the value of our house, that we should get. The other thing that we have seen in values, so before COVID, I can honestly say, I don't think that residents in Fulton or Montgomery County got the value of what they put into their house, generally. Most people put more money into their house than what they could ever sell it for. COVID hits, I would say most people's house value instantly went up about $80,000 after the first year of everybody coming in to these areas, wanting to get out of the big cities and buy. So now suddenly we had an inventory shortage. Houses that used to take probably average 80-some days on the market to sell, were selling in days, maybe weeks, multiple offers. And those were generally people that were coming from the cities that now wanted to live rural. They didn't want to live around the toxic environments. So let's just say your house went up $80,000 in value because of COVID. You're now maybe starting to get some of the money out of your house, if you were to sell it, that you've put into it. Well, now you've got solar coming in, and if you happen to be one of those houses that are affected maybe closer to a $50,000 plus value, you're way below what you're going to be able to buy a house in another area for, even if you're fortunate enough to sell. So if you're gonna head down to Florida, you're gonna go to another state, Tennessee, wherever it is, those markets went up much more than $80,000. Those markets have gone up, we've seen a couple $100,000. You know, a house that was $300,000 a couple years ago in Florida is 5 or 6 now. Tennessee's turning into the same environment. So the reality is you were making some money and having a little more in value coming back to you after COVID, and now you're going to have to fear that it's going to be ripped back away from you. And where are you going to go? Where are you going to be able to afford to buy next if you're trying to then sell your house and move out of the area? You've got to come up with a lot of extra money. And frankly, our jobs around here just don't really support that. Most people, average income, $30,000, maybe $50,000 a year if they're lucky. So how are you going to save the money to move to the next adventure? You know, these are just some of the things that we see here locally. So that's probably my wrap as far as real estate goes. The only other thing that I would like to mention, I was on Town of Broadalbin board, literally in December. My term was up and I had moved to Glen, so I couldn't rerun. I can tell you that we had a very big problem in the town of Broadalbin as well with solar panels. They are also a target. They have an active company that's looking to come in and try buying private land to put solar panels on. That company did come out and tell us it was not at all feasible for them if they weren't getting all of the money for the state. Because one of the concerns we have is on 29, there is a solar farm there. It's about 10 years old. It's been sold so many times that no one is actually reachable to find out what the status of the decommissioning bond is. As of right now, we had no idea if there was even still a decommissioning bond. So in 10 more years, when that lease is up for that land, there's no record of where that's at. They have made phone calls, they've sent emails, but it's been sold so many times that there's been no way to actually figure out who the point of contact is, and nobody returns calls. So that's pretty scary, because if you don't have a decommissioning bond, you have no way to go back to do anything on that land once the lease is up. You know, you're talking about that's going to come out of whose money, whose pocket at that point? You as a taxpayer, probably. So that was just one thing that we were seeing with Town of Broadalbin that I thought was at least worth mentioning. And I know that through some of the other towns, they've been having the same issue with the decommissioning bonds. So I think that some of the towns are trying to protect themselves a little bit more with now doing hefty permit fees for it. But, you know, there's just, this is the part that a lot of people don't see. They don't see that it's, you know, maybe sold 100 times in a matter of a couple of years, and there's no way to figure out who owns it. There's nobody that's keeping up with enforcing what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of other townships have put moratoriums in to try and protect themselves for a time period to become a little more aware. Also, I know that Town of Florida had a big problem, again, just the companies weren't doing what they promised, whether it was putting up certain size trees, whether it's been mowing. And I don't know this for sure, but rumor has it, there's a couple of them that have gone bankrupt, that solar panels have been put on the land and that there's no money being generated and that the landowners did not get paid for it. So that's also a concern if that should happen is, you know, what happens then? Now you've got panels on a piece of property and if they've gone bankrupt, what do you do with the land?
The county signs attached to the land.
So, there was somebody that I knew that put them up in Mayfield that had gone through that, so, and is going through that. And I believe that there's someone else, I wanna say locally, I think there's something going on in Pattersonville with that too, so.